Hello YouTube and good evening. Downtown Dayton, apparently there's stories about, they want to trot out a new story about revitalizing the arcade into apartments. This has been, you know, and as I mentioned, you know, I did another video on this about 6 months ago. You know, they trot out a story about this building every 2 or 3 years about it getting revitalized for the last, probably the last, 15 years. They've had at least 3 or 4 different buyers that have tried something, or they just quietly backed away and then ended up owing the city money once they realize, the scope of the project is just too much for any private investor to handle. This has been vacant for about, 25 years ago, and this used to be a really grand building in downtown Dayton, but I'm afraid time is running out to save this once grand and historic, building right here. So the newest story that they're trotting out is, and apparently this is based off of some model or some advice that they received in Cleveland right here. The Cleveland's got an arcade very similar to this. Apparently a model that somebody said in Cleveland is working, so the city of Dayton or whoever it is going to listen to somebody in Cleveland and their plans for their arcade. And I did some research on this arcade, on the Cleveland arcade, a while back, and it's open, but I've heard there's not many stores in there. It's kind of dingy, looking, and so they're trying to tout the idea of apartments now for this, which, they're so desperate here that they'll try anything, they're trying anything to try and force, the relevancy of this downtown. And I think, if the city leaders would just back off and let things run their course, maybe downtown Dayton, along with the rest of the city, might have some hope for improvement one day. But as long as they, keep being, so just desperate to, force the issue, of this, downtown, and I would love to see this building be saved, but I just, any viable, option right here is just, not working. Here's something that's interesting to make some good videos to investigate. Legend: healthy properties, opportunity properties, parking garage, flat parking, green space. Yeah, this is all their fluff about. It's a supposed revitalization of downtown Dayton, but see that right there? Presence on these premises prohibited. So, for anybody to revitalize this building, you're talking easily in the tens of millions and millions of dollars. I don't think you could do this building for any less than 40 million, and I think that's even without all the remediations. There you can see the inside of it, the rotunda. This thing leaks like crazy, and given the age of it, it's full of asbestos, mold, water damage. The roof needs replaced. So even before they could ever do anything to this, you're probably talking, by my estimation, I'm going to say you're probably talking 10 to $30 million in probably just remediation, you know, damage alone. Because all these, you know, to remove all the mold, asbestos, you know, from here, and the water damage, it's going to need a new roof. That's going to be very expensive. And if you see these windows right here, this is actually one place where they're actually not boarded up on the building. The windows are in pretty bad shape right here. And here, you can see over here where the windows have been, you know, bolted shut because of all the water damage and leakage and things like that. I mean, you know, like I said, you know, they've tried multiple things, you know, about 3 or 4 years ago, the big story was with this building, the Dayton Montgomery County Metro Library was going to relocate inside of here. That never happened because they knew the building was just too much work. It had too much, you know, damage. Arcade Seafoods, I believe this might have been one of the last things that closed up. This was open till a few years ago at the end here, but I hate to say this, but you know, this building is probably going to end up having to be demolished, because I heard when I looked up arcades, similar ones like this around here, you know, Cincinnati used to have one. They demolished theirs, geez, back in the 1940s or 1950s. Cleveland has one. Toledo has one. The Spitzer Arcade has one. The Spitzer Arcade. I mean, I believe just time is running out to save this right here. You can see the building right there. It's in pretty rough shape on the inside of it. And if you're going to come in and try and, you know, save this building, you better have some, I mean, by my estimation, to probably redo this whole building, whether it would be for apartments, see just the architecture, really grand architecture. It would be a shame to lose this, but I'm afraid that is a real possibility, because they've tried to something, you know, they've tried a few different things, but unless they're going to get a whole crap load of taxpayer money for this, which I'm very against. If somebody can't fund this privately, it's time to get rid of it. There's no more usage for this. And right here, see this right here, YouTube? Public nuisance. Right here. Yep. So the arcade is declared a public nuisance. So, I mean, I am not a contractor or anything like that, but to probably even get this building anywhere near where it would need to be to get this building up and running, you're probably talking, I bet, easily anywhere from $50 to $100 million just to get this in a state where it could even be, you know, usable again. And nobody in their right mind is gonna, you know, spend that kind of money here, especially in a city like Dayton. Maybe if this was in Seattle or Houston or New York, hey, somebody would be willing to put the money into it, but not in downtown Dayton. There's just no way. And as I mentioned when I did my last video on this, the best idea for this would be you know, turn it into, you know, let Sinclair buy it, turn it into classrooms, laboratories, something that doesn't rely on retail, office, or living space. That would be a productive use for this property. But anyway, that's gonna be it for this one. And if they have any other, you know, stupid boondoggle ideas with the arcade, I'll let you guys know. But I think eventually they're gonna end up having to demolish this building, because it just, I mean, I don't know how many more times they can attempt to try and save it. And we're right in the heart of downtown too. And and this building right here, right there on the corner, on the right, that was the Fourth Center City building, which I did the video on that, you know, before. That's like 80 to 90% vacancy. So guess what? If Sinclair, you know, for example, even did want space to use it, they're only about a block away from here. They could approach the owner of that building, the Fourth Center building at the corner of 4th and Ludlow, about redoing that building, and I'm sure they would probably gladly listen to an offer to redo it before they would sink probably $50 to $100 million in this building. But that's it for this one.